Welcome to the Dollars and Cents podcast and radio show, coming to you from the Wave Beach Realty Studio. The holidays are almost here, so it's time to get your financial picture wrapped up so you can have a great Christmas and a happy new year. Reach out to me at coachwestc@gmail.com to get some financial coaching.
Hey guys, don't forget we go live every Saturday at 11 a.m. on 94.5 as well as 106.7, or you can stream us live at talkradiomb.com.
This segment is sponsored by Wave Beach Realty, 843-957-3872.
All right, guys, welcome back into our segment today on war. We're going to talk a little bit about...
We were getting out of politics, so I'm glad we're out of politics, but do we really have to jump into something like war?
Right. Yeah, Matt, well, let's just go straight from politics into mass casualties since we want to...
Well, I mean, it's going on right in front of us. I mean, as we record this on the Friday... the 22nd?
Yeah.
Overnight, things escalated more. They used that hypersonic missile into Ukraine last night. I guess today for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and like I haven't been following it. I've been out of town this past week, and I'm just kind of catching up on some of what's going on. I tried to like keep my mind off of everything this week and just have a good week. And then I came back and played. Yeah, I was at a Dallas Cowboys football game. And if you know anything about NFL, you probably know that I didn't enjoy watching the Texans beat us down as I left in the third quarter, almost crying. But other than that, I enjoyed.
Third quarter? Did you leave? Really?
At the end of the third, it was just rough. The Texans fans were in full force, man. I was it was fun though. I enjoyed most.
Is that 2 hours apart, Dallas and Houston?
Yeah, they're 2 hours apart.
2 hours apart.
Yep. And then the time change from here to there is only an hour, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't too hard. I didn't have too much jet lag or anything. But Dallas is a pretty cool city. It's mainly like a business city. There's like a lot of business into high buildings and high rises and stuff like that. But there's some fun stuff to do there too. Did get to go to the aquarium and the zoo while I was there. I love a good aquarium, so we did that while we were there. But anyway,
for a wedding my nephew got married last year, so I was there for a few days.
Oh, nice.
Didn't get around a lot, but enjoyed what I saw.
Nice, yeah. It's not bad.
My son got married near Houston.
Okay.
So I actually spent time
there. I haven't been to Houston yet.
I like Dallas, but the area.
Really? Yeah. I will shout out to Knife Steakhouse. I had one of the best 120-day dry-aged ribeyes I've ever had in my life. Some of the best steaks I've ever had are in Dallas, Texas.
I saw that picture.
Yeah. Oh, that was before it was cooked. Because when they dry age them, they have like mold and everything.
Yeah.
And then they cut that off and cook them, but it gives them like this blue cheese. I did. Every bite of it. It was so good. Anyway,
so you blocked all this stuff out.
Yeah. So a little trivia for you real quick before we start talking about this horrible war stuff. Today, you mentioned the date earlier, November 22nd. I was supposed to start the timer too. Whoops. Didn't start our 12-minute timer for our segment.
We got 10 minutes
So, trivia. What happened on November 22nd? What's an important thing that happened? That happened on November 22nd?
I don't know.
If you want me, I'll give you the year 1963.
1963. Oh, 63. Is that the Bay of Pigs?
No, November 22nd, 1963 was when the day JFK was assassinated.
Really? See, I don't even know that.
Yeah. Just coming back from Dallas, that also ties into that because we went down Elm Street, and Bryn had never been to Dallas, and I was like,
gunman was
I was like, this is where one of the shooters were. I was like, this is the school book depository, and then they have an X marked in the street where
they really?
Yeah, where he.
Really?
So we drove right over it in one of the Ubers, and then there's like the grassy knoll still over there and everything. And I've been in the school book depository a few times for like a tour, and there's a bunch of like it takes you, it's like a whole museum now, and then you can actually go to like the sniper's nest that they preserved where he was and look down.
Our topic is war. You give me that trivia, but there's a lot of conspiracy, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist, about why he was shot because of Vietnam War.
Yeah, well, it's Trump needs to release the files, but the CIA definitely killed him.
Definitely. President Trump, you're listening to us right now. Please release
those files
for Jonathan.
Yeah, for me and for Bobby Kennedy, if nobody else. Release it for us too, because I've been studying this my whole life, waiting for somebody to tell me what really happened. And clearly, Lee Harvey Oswald was not a lone gunman. So yeah, so back in I know the CIA definitely put a coup together.
I don't know why it popped in my head. I can't remember. You said you ever watched the X-Files?
I've watched episodes of the X-Files, but I want to go back and actually watch it from start to finish.
There was a spin-off of that because there was 3 characters on there called the Lone Gunmen.
Okay.
And they were all about conspiracy theories. And Mulder went to them all the time asking them about stuff.
Yeah.
Hold on one sec. I got something in my throat, can't get it out. But there's a whole episode about the smoking man that's on there.
Okay.
Because he's the basic deep state guy in the background, and he's always running things from the background. Nobody knows who he is or where he comes from. But the gunmen uncover his story.
Oh, okay.
And so they go through this whole thing about his whole life. And one of the things in his life was he was the guy in the drain near the grassy knoll or whatever that shot JFK.
Ah, got you.
But he had set up, they show him setting up Oswald doing it. So it was really interesting.
Wow, that's cool.
You ought to watch that episode.
That
it's
is
pretty good.
cool, yeah. So anyway, there's now that we got onto conspiracies, that's definitely one that I think is going to be proven to be factual if they release those files. That
I think so,
CIA definitely had a big hand in
isn't that where
stopping
the
them.
term came from? Conspiracy has been around for centuries.
Yeah.
But that's where the term came from, wasn't it?
I think they started it there. I want to say actually originally, though, it was when Area 51 was found out, and all the UFO stuff surrounding it, and they were saying that it was a conspiracy that it even existed. They denied that Area 51 was even there. They were like, people are just making that up. It's not even there. And then they bought more land around it to extend out so people couldn't get close to it. And finally, one year they admitted that it was finally real. But I'm pretty sure the term conspiracy theory started originally because around Area 51
okay.
and out in the Nevada desert, Groom Lake. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah.
Somebody can fact check me on that.
So and I would say that conspiracy theories lead into this segment about wars, because a lot of things happen. I should have my brother on. My brother's a big conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
He has the missiles coming out of the planes that hit the Twin Towers.
Oh yeah, the bombs planted in the bottom.
The bombs are already there.
The controlled demolition.
And then maybe somebody here listening like, it's true. I just
a lot of people believe that. Yeah, that one's one I try to walk a fine line on the 9/11 conspiracies, because a lot of people died that day, and I don't want to throw out stupid conspiracies about when it involving that. I don't know.
I could see our government involved in some way. I did not think our government set the planes in motion.
Yeah, I think they could have done something a lot smaller scale if they wanted to just go a reason to go fight in the Middle East. I don't think they needed to do all that.
Not kill allow 3,000 Americans to be killed
I just
one
don't
day.
see
And everybody's
that.
killed off since then. But anyway, so he's big into that, and he I wished I had this at my fingertips, but supposedly the Vietnam War, in fact I may have it up here, started because they got a timeline. The main thing that really set it off was some kind of attack that ended up being a false flag. Let's see if it's Battle of Dien Bien Phu, May of 1954. Is that it? Anyway, supposedly what he told me was some of the stuff that Trump did declassify showed that was a CIA scam, that they had actually did that to get us into that war. And
I believe that. Yeah, they've been going down a corrupt path for a long time, probably since this day in 1963. At least. So
actually, they had to start before that because they had the power to do what they did. Because I still don't believe the CIA itself was the ones that did it. I believe people in the CIA definitely were behind it.
Yeah, I think some people in the higher. Yeah, I don't think everybody in the CIA was just planning this out. I think some people in the higher echelon of it did this for darker reasons.
So, but that brings us to the topic of the day, because everything's going on in Ukraine and Russia. I mean, it's been going on now for two and a half years.
Yeah, just nonstop.
And it's escalated the last few weeks, which is crazy when we're having a new president come in.
Right. I know.
What's up with that?
It's almost like it's being encouraged. I don't know. It's sickening to even think that maybe the current administration is intentionally not doing anything to help at this point and trying to push it to escalate it to make this next presidency look bad, because he gets COVID the first time and now he's going to inherit World War III. I don't know. I don't know. That's a whole conspiracy right there in itself.
Yeah, it really is.
It's alarming, and I hope that's not one that's true. And I really hope we can de-escalate this, because I don't want to be around for World War III. To be honest with you,
I hope we can, but it worries me how quickly it's upticking now.
Yeah.
Because they fired. I mean, it was like Biden gave the okay to fire the weapons. As they're firing the weapons, sometimes I don't know the timeline. I hadn't looked at it closely, but in that same time, in the hours, Putin comes out and says, if you've used weapons from a country that's a nuclear power, then we have the right to use nuclear back. I'm changing their definition of when they would use a nuclear attack.
Yeah,
so I mean, literally that hypersonic missile they sent in could have had a nuclear device on it. Been a low yield, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
And then they do that. They send that back, and then they fired, what are they called? Shadow missiles?
Shadow missiles, I believe, yeah.
From the UK. Mm-hmm. So that puts UK in his crossheads here too.
Yeah, so what, all right. So what is the end goal for, if you're Putin, what is he actually trying to accomplish? Just to take over Ukraine entirely and he wants the land and resources? Is that the end goal?
Again, I'm not an expert, obviously way out of my field, but my thoughts and what I hear from people talking on podcasts and newscasters and people who know the region. My sister-in-law is from Belarus. Obviously she was Russian. She used to be a Russian citizen. She's an American citizen now, but so she hears all this stuff on the other side coming over. And literally, if I had to break it down, if I had to guess, and this is all it is an educated guess, is he wants those raw resources that are in that area that he took over. He took over, was it Crimea, before Trump came in. Again, I think was for resources, natural resources. I think the area he wants now is that same area that he keeps saying that were mainly Russian citizens anyway. And I literally have had students in my class that are Ukrainian who say, no, he's not telling the truth. We really didn't want to be part of Russia. But then I've also heard people, not my students, but people from that area from other podcasts, and I'll say, no, we are Russia. We want to be part of it. So it's kind of like there's this back and forth even in the region about who they want to be part of. I literally think that's all he wants. But if we keep pushing him, I wonder where he'll stop. I do not think he's, I'm sorry, I don't think he's Hitler in trying to take over Europe.
So you think if he got Ukraine back, he'd be done? He wouldn't keep on moving?
I think Trump could, if Trump could work out a deal to give him part of the land that he's got occupied, which Ukraine doesn't want to give up, and I agree, they're a sovereign nation. He should never win in. But how do you stop it now is the question.
The only thing you do now is to negotiate to de-escalate the potential of the worst case scenario. That's all you can do. And if that causes Ukraine to lose some territory, but it saves us from World War III, sometimes you just got to be the bigger man and give it up and say this was messed up. You're still a war criminal or whatever you want to call him. But we can't do this again. And
if he steps back and stops, then it's okay. But if he does like Hitler did in World War II,
keeps on rolling,
keeps going,
then it's over. Then you just got to go full speed. And I think he knows. I feel like, obviously, I listened to that full interview that Tucker did with him when he went to I guess that was in Moscow. And he seems like a pretty, even though I'm sure he's not a good person, he seems like a pretty reasonable and smart person.
He's an intelligent man, and that's what he get on Trump about. Trump say that he's intelligent. Oh, you like
that? Doesn't mean you like him. I don't like him at all. But when I listened to that interview with Tucker, like, I learned a lot about him. Now obviously he could be lying. I don't know, but he seemed reasonable. He seemed like a very smart person. They knew the history of everything and had facts to back up what he was saying. And I was like, well, I don't like or hate the guy any more than I did before listening to him. I mean, you got to respect somebody's intelligence, regardless of if you hate him or not.
I definitely don't like him. But you
same.
cannot sit back. I mean, we have this mentality in the United States now that we don't like somebody, we call them dumb. That's not how it is. Hitler, as much as I hate Hitler and what he did, he was not a dumb person.
I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. You can't just say
you get that many people behind you to do this, commit the atrocities you were committing, and to get as far as you did. You can't be dumb to do that. Now, are you a horrible human and should be frying in the depths of hell? But are you? But were you dumb? Obviously not. You know, whether it was propaganda or whatever he used to get to be as powerful as he was, he did something right as far as he was concerned. But you know, or horrible either way. But.
So with that being said, we kind of talked about this segment being about all wars. So do we want to back up and look at some of the other wars and move up to today?
Yes, you want to. I know this is probably going to wrap up our radio segment. Do you
probably
want to,
so. We don't really acknowledge it anymore, but this is probably where I'll break it, and we'll just jump right into. Let's go back to World War I and start moving forward.
Let's do it.
Are you looking to buy a home in the Myrtle Beach and surrounding areas? You need to reach out to Wave Beach Realty today. Wave Beach Realty has been around since 2013 and is a local family-owned company. We specialize in investment properties, single-family homes, multifamily, and condo-tels. Call Wave Beach Realty today at 843-957-3872. That's 843-957-3872. You're listening to the Dollars and Cents Radio Show with Jonathan Edmond and Wes the Economist. Don't forget to send us your topics and feedback at dollarscentsgs@gmail.com.
This part of the show is brought to you by Clark Financial Coaching. Reach out to us at coachwesc@gmail.com. That's coachwesc@gmail.com to get a free consultation to help you get your financial picture in focus. So I guess we go back to World War One,
Yep.
and honestly, by world history in these parts, I know a lot about the economics around this different things.
Mhm.
I know stuff like in World War One, Woodrow Wilson kind of put the Constitution on hold. A lot of people don't know that. If you go back and read the history of Woodrow Wilson, I think one of the worst presidents in our history.
Really?
And I'm sure there's somebody listening like, oh, no, he's one of the best. But he literally, you can start progressivism back at Teddy Roosevelt, but he wasn't that bad. Woodrow Wilson, the only PhD we've ever had as president, I believe is the worst president we ever had.
Oh, wow.
And it has a lot to do with listening to experts. And I actually did an Econ Sense podcast on the experts and how we started listening to people who had no clue about doing the job they were telling you to do.
Right.
And all that came in the process there. But as far as World War I don't know a lot about it. What do you know about it?
Not much, to be honest with you. I feel like in school we studied like a lot of the wars quite a bit, but I feel like World War One was one that we didn't spend a ton of time on because we moved straight into World War II and then Vietnam and then the Cold War and so I feel like we kind of neglected to talk about and understand the full scope of World War One and what and if there's anything you know about the economics of it, of why it started, and I don't even remember exactly what the full ending of it was.
The start of it was with the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand. He was shot, and I pulled some stuff up here because I don't remember all this stuff. I studied it obviously in school too, but a lot of it goes back, and that happened in 1914. Is that when it actually happened though? He was shot to death along with his wife in 1914. So that was the shot that started it. We stayed out of it. So July 28th it began. Austria and Hungary had declared war on Serbia. Same region we're talking about now, in that same kind of geographical area.
Yeah.
Ended up being, who was it? The Ottoman Empire and Germany. Let's see. European powers. Alliance involved European powers, the Ottoman Empire, Russia and other parties that existed for years but politically unstable in the Balkans threatened to destroy these agreements. Because you remember, this is also when, was it Lenin or Stalin? Which one started the revolution for Russia? I should know that. I want to say it's
Stalin,
wasn't it? Let's see if they list his name here. But that happened in this same time period, 1917.
Okay.
So even though they were part of the war, I don't think they were, obviously they weren't as strong as they were in World War II.
Yeah.
So
what years was that? Because I know World War II was in the late 30s, early 40s.
World War I was started in 1914.
Okay.
And I think ended in, what is the timeline? 17, 18, I should have this stuff up.
Yeah.
It lasted until 1918.
Okay.
So during the 4-year conflict, I'll just read this off of, this is history.com. During the 4-year conflict, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, and Ottoman Empire fought against Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, Romania, Canada, Japan, the United States, the Allied powers. So you had the Central Powers led by Germany and against the Allied powers that were basically led by the UK and France until the United States finally joined in.
Right. And back then, we weren't a war power.
No. And we tried to stay out of that war.
Right.
Pretty sure, let's see if I can find the date we actually entered the war. It says Russian Revolution went on during this time too, 1914, 1916.
Okay.
1917 is when Lenin, it was Lenin.
Oh, it was Lenin.
Lenin took over there. So in the midst of all this World War. And war back then was also different, I would think.
I would imagine so.
This is when they had the trenches in Europe. Again, I think we talked about this off air, but France was able to hold their border for 2 years or something like that.
That's crazy.
Against Germany. And this is not the Germany. I noticed when I talked to a lot of younger people in my classes, this is not the Germany of Nazi Germany.
Right.
This was, I just ran across the names. This is when you had the people running it were called Kaisers. Kaiser Wilhelm II was over them at that point. And so this ended up ending, as I said, what did I say, 1917? I'm trying to see where we actually entered. I don't see the timeline where we actually entered. But once we entered, it kind of turned the tide and ended up defeating them. But again, a lot of it was economic resources, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And again, don't know a lot about World War One. But then you go into the time period between World War One and World War Two.
I was going to say
That's
was
very interesting.
You got, so it ended in 1917,
17,
and then World War II starts, 39?
39, wasn't it?
Something like that, and then it ended in 42?
45.
45.
Yeah, we didn't get until 41. And
Got it.
ended in 45.
Oh, I was thinking 42.
So 39, Nazi invaded Poland. And this is what people are comparing Putin to.
Right.
Invading his neighbor. And Hitler did say, I'm invading Poland because they're mistreating former German citizens.
Yeah.
That sound familiar? So everything kind of fits in there. So when you look back in a casual kind of glance, it looks like, oh, maybe this is the same thing. And it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
I'm not a geopolitical guy to this point. I don't understand enough about it. But I don't think, I honestly don't think that's what he's trying to do. I could be wrong.
Hope you are.
I hope I am too. But during the time, and this is what I did study, between the end of the war and the beginning of World War II, you had a lot of things happen in Europe. And one of them was there was a big movement of pacifism, that people would not fight anymore.
Yeah.
Literally on the college campuses, even in the UK, especially in France and other countries in Europe, there was a big push to not fight world wars anymore. And they literally had people signing these promises that if a country invades us, we will not fight them because the better thing to do is just to be pacifist. So this whole mentality kind of swept over Europe, and kind of like what we have now.
Yeah.
You know, no fighting, no wars, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Hitler knew that. When he came to power, I mean, Hitler was, everybody says he was elected like Trump was elected. He really wasn't. He was elected to a seat, and then he, inside the government, was able to get the other election people to put him in power. But during this time, he realized, if I go against these people, they probably won't mess with me. So when he invaded Poland, everybody kind of like, oh, no big, just let it be pacifism.
Yeah.
And literally, even though France held the line in World War One, again, it's 2 years or so, it was more like 6 months in World War II.
Yeah.
Because they really didn't have the passion to fight anymore.
Right.
UK had gone through the same kind of transition. And if you really look back at what was the prime minister before Churchill? He was a big pacifist. And I can't remember his name off the top of my head either.
Yeah.
But he was a big pacifist. And he signed an accord with Hitler. He signed saying that we would fight Germany and all. Fortunately for UK and fortunately for us, Churchill retook the prime ministership before the war started.
Yeah.
And was able to plow through. But he had bad times after that. He kind of turned back the other way.
Yeah.
So, economically, though, I mean, this is where they say our war complex really took off.
Yeah.
War, what do you call it? Industrial military complex.
Industrial complex, yeah.
And who was it? Eisenhower or Truman that warned us against that?
I think it was Eisenhower. I'm almost certain that was Eisenhower.
Got him in trouble, too, for speaking out.
Yeah, they didn't like that.
No.
They didn't like that. It's just, and then ever since, it's just like we've just been a war machine, and other countries have as well, and now here we are, however many years later, on the brink of the next world war. I guess we're lucky we made it this long based off the history of the last two.
Because we had Korean War, we had the Vietnam War. Both were not wars.
Right.
They were literally police actions.
Right.
And the politicians ran it.
Right.
I mean, the Vietnam War was known as the first war that came into our houses through the TV.
Yeah. And
I think I guess I don't understand, especially today, how people look at war and think, well, how could you kill people? These are evil people trying to kill people. What do you do to stop them?
Right. You have to fight evil.
And with their citizens, I get that, but we live in a game world or something, I guess, fantasy land.
Yeah.
That's just not how things work.
No, that's not how it works. It's just amazing that's where we're at now. I mean, you would think in this day and age, like, all these countries are established. It's like, all right, these territories and boundaries are here now. Like, it is what it is. Let's just...
Yeah, but they haven't always been there. I mean, one of the things out of World War One was it World War One? Yeah, World War One. They went in at the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was really big in siding with Germany. And so back then, when you lost a war, you had to pay reparations. And whoever won get to decide everything for you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that brought Hitler to power, I bring this out in my econ class, Hitler came to power because after World War One, Germany had to pay back the Allied forces. And paying them back, they pretty much mortgaged their country to make sure they had enough money to actually pay off the reparations, which devastated their economy. It sent the mark into downfall, into hyperinflation, which became worthless. We literally have video of kids taking that mark from Germany and wrapping them in tape and building stuff out of them. It just was worth nothing.
Yeah.
So we had that going on. Inflation was rampant. People were trying to buy stuff with their money as soon as they got it because it wasn't going to be worth anything tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, I think it was, off the top of my head, I can't remember the number, but 67% inflation rate for the year. That's not the worst it's ever been. In fact, Venezuela just had 100% per month or something.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe had 100% per month at one point. So, I mean, it can get right out of control. That's a whole other topic for another time.
Yeah.
So, when Hitler came on the scene, he was like, I'm going to get us back on track. I'm going to get this economy under control. I'm going to make things great. And this is where they kind of tag Trump in this stuff. Because Trump's saying this kind of stuff, but you got to understand the government under that Germany was very easy for him to take over.
Right.
As we said before on our podcast, Trump can't take over this government. There's too many people, including the people who voted for him, that would take him, would escort him out of the White House.
Yeah, yeah.
So completely different type of life. But he came to power because of that. In fact, we praised Hitler in the early 1930s. We have a letter to the youth of Germany from our Secretary of State saying, you have a great leader. You should follow him any way he leads. Time made him the man of the year, and they say, well, they made him man of the year because he was so influential and such an evil guy. Well, I don't think it was all that. He was still looked at pretty favorably. Yeah. You can't change history even though we try.
Right.
So that economics brought him to power. He took over, and then he was thirsty for world domination.
Yeah. Just crazy. That's like just a weird thing to want. It's just so wild. So
but you had, who was before him? Napoleon out of France?
Yeah, yeah.
And you go back through history, all the way back to
it's been a thing forever. It's just
go all the way back to Nimrod.
Yeah.
Nimrod is the first world conqueror in Genesis in the Bible.
Yeah.
You've probably heard that name.
Yeah,
as calling somebody a name.
Yeah.
But literally it is a biblical character where he actually conquered the Babylon area. There's always people who want to do it.
That's wild.
And think they're crazy enough they can do it.
Yeah, it's just then what though? You conquer everything, then what? Like you get bored and start doing so. Yeah, it's wild.
Well, the people who take over for communist countries. I mean, North Korea, the Korean War was a fight against communism.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, our politicians held us back from fighting it. What was it? 38th parallel. You couldn't go past the 38th parallel.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that was Vietnam. Which one was 38th parallel? I can't remember which one it was now. Everybody listening, send in because we got historians. Yeah, 38th parallel. We got historians hopefully listening that know a lot more about this stuff than I do, especially military guys.
Right.
We're just trying to give a brief kind of look at it because a lot of us forgot it.
Yeah.
Especially the next generation.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like you need to study history to figure out where because it always repeats itself, they say. So to see where we're at now and where we're going to end up, it's probably good to start from the beginning and look at how all of it started to begin with. And it seems that it's just the playbook's back.
We kind of skipped through World War II, but you look at World War II, the Allied powers again against the Axis powers. Then you're incorporating Japan from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
But again, you're incorporating a lot of that people out of Africa. Oh, going back to World War I again. It's all kind of ties together. So the Ottoman Empire is torn up. Probably a lot of people listening to this may know this, but the genocide before the Holocaust that kind of made Hitler think he could get away with it was what happened to the Christians in the Ottoman Empire. I don't know if you've ever heard that story in 1917, 1916.
Refresh me.
I want to say tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of Coptic Christians were thrown off cliffs. I mean, basically, there was piles of bodies at the bottom of this cliff. They just literally went in and wiped them out, and nobody cared. And not a lot of people in history know about it.
That's wild.
Hitler saw that, and so in World War II, when he lost his mind going after Jewish people, he said, well, nobody's going to care. They didn't stop him in the Middle East.
Right.
But one thing they did, you were talking about these borders. I think that's what got me sidetracked. they did. They went into the Middle East and that whole area, and these people from UK and these other places divided up all those countries.
Yeah.
So you always hear about Iraq and the two sides fighting each other, or the Kurds up in the north with Turkey.
Yeah.
That's because we went in as the Allied powers and made up these countries that never existed.
Right.
And literally put these fractions together in one country that hated each other.
Right.
And so the borders today are man-made that don't really follow geographical things or the history of the place.
Well, that makes it make a little bit more sense than it's like just trying to take back what they feel like rightfully should have been theirs the whole time.
Isn't that what Putin said in his interview with
yeah, because he gave a whole history lesson before he even started talking about everything. He went through like an hour history lesson with Tucker and to explain his point of why he was where he was at that point.
Yeah.
And yeah, he talks about a lot of that. I need to go back and watch that because it was really interesting.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, but
he got a lot of hardship over it. But you got to listen to both sides. We just don't want to listen to both sides.
Why would you not want to listen to him talk? Like, it's interesting, and then you can at least see, if nothing else, understand his perspective, and then it helps you better negotiate with him, understand where he's coming from, so you can reach a resolution. Like, why would you not study that?
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying, people are saying like, oh, Tucker went over there and he was talking about how great Russia was. Like, he was making some points while he was over there that like, hey, we can't even, we're calling this guy this evil dictator, and some of the places I'm going over here are nicer than we keep our country. That was some of the points he was making while he was over there, but because they like had a video of him in a grocery store and all this stuff. Silly stuff. But anyway, he never said that he liked Putin. He just wanted to understand him better. And I think more people should interview him and talk to him. Like, why not? I hope he does the same thing with Kim Jong-un. I'd love to hear him talk with him.
Yeah. If we don't know where they're coming from, it doesn't mean we have to like them.
Yeah, you can still despise everything about them.
I can probably listen to either one of those and still come out hating them, like you said, just as much as before.
Yeah. Or more, but at least now I understand.
But if you understand exactly, if you understand your enemy, it's better to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, read The Art of War. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. So World War II, 1939, in 1945. Obviously the end of the war. That's why I came back to this one. I want to ask you about what do you think about us ending the war the way we did in Japan?
World War II.
World War II. It's a hard one.
I wasn't around at the time to figure out if that was the best way out. I haven't studied it enough to know if that was the best cause for action. So I can't like pitch another scenario. It's hard to pitch another scenario. I'm not a fan of nuclear war at all. I wish that nobody had nuclear weapons. I wish it wasn't even a thing. You killed a lot of innocent people. I don't know. It's hard to be a pro.
I had 3 Japanese exchange students I had a chance one time to talk to. It was very interesting. One despised us for dropping the bombs. One loved us for dropping the bombs. And one was kind of I can see both sides kind of thing. It was really interesting to hear their perspective. Obviously, just 3 from Japan, so I don't know what the overall culture is. But obviously the reason we did it was to save American lives.
Right.
My understanding, and I hear different things, but most of the stuff I read pretty much points out that we were not doing well.
Right.
And Hitler was on his way to an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And the race was on to whoever got it first.
Right.
If we had not developed it and Hitler had finished his, what would the world look like?
Right, yeah.
It's actually it was on Hulu or somewhere. Have you ever seen that Man in the Tower? That's a very interesting take on what would have happened if Hitler had won.
Oh, wow. I bet that is interesting.
It's a very interesting... Yeah, it ends up being about multiverse and all.
Yeah,
but
so, if the ultimate result of that, if I could see the other side of it and say, okay, if we hadn't done that and we ended up in a different place and the world was a much worse place because of it, it's like, okay, well, unfortunately, a lot of innocent people had to die that had nothing to do with the war for the rest of humanity. I'm okay with it. I don't like it.
No. And that's just it.
I accept it if that's what the case was.
They dropped the first one thinking that would bring the surrender. And the emperor and all said, no, we're still not going to surrender.
Which is pretty selfish when you've lost that many lives.
I thought so. So we dropped the second one and they're like, okay.
All right, we'll stop. Yep.
And I don't know the history enough. I'd love to hear somebody who knows more about it.
Was it Nagasaki first, then Hiroshima?
I don't know. Let's see if I can find it.
I think there was a small one on Nagasaki, and then we dropped a bigger one on Hiroshima.
Is that what it was?
Because I think it was a bigger city. I might have them backwards.
I thought I pulled up a timeline here, but it's not really giving me. Maybe it's right here.
Could be wrong.
War ends in 1945. Let's see. Hiroshima, February 1945. 2 wars. Let's see. Yeah, it's not giving me the dates.
Either way, I know those were they were dropped. I mean, but so I mean, yeah. Realistically, maybe it was the best result.
August 6th, Hiroshima. August 6th, 1945. Little boy.
Yep.
And then I don't see the other one there. And then Hiroshima, August 6th. What was that? That was the same one, isn't it?
Did they drop them the same day?
No, they didn't. Just on the same one, I guess.
Oh.
But then you have the Korean conflict, police action, Vietnam conflict. So again, we talked about earlier in this podcast about Kennedy. I mean, one of the conspiracy theories is Kennedy was killed because he'd already signed the order to pull us out of Vietnam.
Right.
And the military-industrial complex didn't want it. CIA didn't want it. People, let's just say the people in CIA. And that's one of the reasons he was killed. Because one of the first things that Johnson did was rescind that order.
Right.
To make sure we stayed.
You got to wonder if he was in on it.
A lot of people believe it. A lot of people believe he was. And the way he looked after he was sworn in was like, there's one picture that people say he knew what was going on the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't be. It would make sense with the rest of the scenario.
And
scary.
I mean, during all that time, you brought this up that you want to talk about was the Cold War. That was going on.
Yep.
And it really wasn't a war.
Right.
But it was, I mean, I lived at the very end of this. I mean, so in the 70s and early 80s, we were worried about nuclear weapons being shot at us.
Yeah. And then at the same time, we were dealing with Castro too, right? Around that same time.
Well, Castro was he took power in late 50s, early 60s. Yeah. He was friends with Russia.
I can't believe that man made it out alive after all the assassination attempts on him.
Oh, I know.
How he lived to his ripe old age. I mean, the fact that he got away with it, I mean, is amazing. That is the luckiest
and still,
man in history.
His brother's still running things. He won't step down.
I don't know who's running it now. I mean, I know that we finally lifted the embargo with them that we had forever. And
yeah, Obama did that.
Yeah. So I guess.
But it's still way behind.
Yeah.
Way behind us.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful island.
Oh, yeah.
Those pictures
I've seen photos. I've never been there, obviously. But
I haven't been there either.
I think we're allowed to travel there now, though, right? Yeah.
Well, we were. I guess we still are.
I'm assuming so. I haven't kept track of that or tabs on that, but.
So did you see the movie that came out last year about the Manhattan Project? Oh, what was it called?
That was the development of the bomb, right?
Oppenheimer, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I told you about this.
Did you?
Oh no. No, I'm thinking of a different one. The Imitation Game. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Imitation.
I did not see Oppenheimer.
That's really good. You should watch it. It's kind of. I want to watch it again because they decided to jump time periods over and over again.
Okay.
So you had to know which time period you were looking at.
Got it.
It was.
I need to go watch that. I keep forgetting that I didn't see it, and then I need to go watch it.
That's real, but it goes through stuff like the people developing understood what they were doing.
Yeah.
But still, like we just talked about, knew that it had to be done.
Right.
Because if they didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it.
Right.
But then some of them got caught up in the Cold War stuff with communism.
Yeah.
Because some of them were part of the Communist Party, and they had got out of it because the Communist Party is different across the board. It's just like anything else. It's got different political movements inside of it.
Right.
Marx took over the communist movement in the 1800s. He was not the starter of it.
Right.
He literally turned into Marxism, different than the communism that was there before him.
Yeah.
So that whole movie kind of shows what we went through, and then that also showed the movement because they had the atomic bomb, but a guy working on the project, I guess, had the idea for the nuclear, and he was already working on it before we even finished the atomic bomb. And obviously, nuclear weapons are a lot more powerful than atomic.
Right. Crazy stuff. What's even crazier is that after World War II ended, we took all the German scientists and gave them just said, "Hey, come over here and work for us, and we'll give you complete."
This X-Files shows on that too. You need to watch X-Files.
Yeah, I do need to watch X-Files. They literally just brought all those horrible war criminals over here and said, "Well, you're smart, so we're going to give you complete immunity, and you can just work for us now." Yeah, crazy.
Now, obviously, I was alive for the winning of the Cold War.
Yeah,
but and people give Reagan credit for it. I think it was a lot longer than that. I'm an economist. I'm biased, but I think economics was what led to in the Cold War, because Soviet Union basically ran out of resources. Their whole system of controlling the market and having a planning center that did the thing for the whole union just didn't work.
Right.
And they had all kind of issues with shipments and with shortages, surpluses, and just could not figure out how to make it work. And that's one of the biggest problems with a command. I always call it a command economy. Is you've got people trying to make decisions that are better made in the market by millions of people instead of hundreds of people.
Right, yeah.
But basically made them run out of resources, and they fail.
Yeah. Wild.
Which then brought in chaos in Russia, and then brought Putin to power.
And he's been there for what? How many years has he been in power?
Oh, how long has
He's
Putin
been on there a long time.
I mean, didn't he come in after Gorbachev, right?
Pretty sure.
Let's see. We can find the actual dates here. Vladimir Putin.
And so he there's no way to get him out until he's dead.
Pretty much, he's got it kind of pretty much straightforward. It says 2000. He's born in 1952. He served from 2000 to 2008, and then took back over. And I don't think he goes anywhere from there. He's going to be there right on.
Yeah.
And ex-KGB, he has been known to quote that he thought the worst thing that happened, geopolitically happened in the 20th century was the breakup of the Soviet Union. So another reason people think he's trying to take back the land.
Yeah.
And then so the Cold War's over. We had, I don't know if you probably right around your birth, I guess. I'm old. We had Desert Shield, where Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait.
That was with George Bush Sr. in power.
And we pushed him back out. And everybody said a lot of people said we should have went on to Baghdad then and taken out Saddam Hussein, who looks like we put in power anyway. That's a whole nother story. And then he didn't back down, basically. And then, obviously, once we were attacked by the terrorists in 2001, then Bush started the Gulf War.
Right. But Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with that attack, right? That was all Bin Laden.
No, and we went in there because of weapons of mass destruction, which he had used on the Kurds. He had used chemical or biological.
Something like that, yeah.
And the funny thing about it is mainstream media says that we never found them. Well, I thought that because that's what I'd heard. And I was teaching, this is like 2014, 15. I had an ex-Army lady in my class. And it came up in class, and somebody said, yeah, they never found it. And she says, oh, no, wait a minute. And I was like, what do you mean? She says, I served over there. I said, okay. And she goes, and I was part of the team that took out of the country the mass destruction weapons that we found.
Oh, wow.
And so I started doing some research. If you dig, it wasn't nuclear weapons.
Right.
It was biological, I think, or chemical.
Okay.
Yeah, we did find them.
Yeah.
But nobody ever reported it.
Huh.
Talking about conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Oof.
You have to dig for it, but you can find it. And it may not have been enough to go into war on. I can give you that.
Yeah.
But I still hear the narrative. We went in under false pretenses.
Yeah.
Well, no, we didn't know how much they had. And they had already used them one time on their own people.
Right.
So, but I also think it was just George Jr. or the third or whatever just wanting to
finish what his dad started.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do
that
with it too.
probably had a lot to do with it. Yeah.
But then you get up now. We did all that stuff in Afghanistan, Iraq, and we just walk out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
That everybody
and then it's
believes
just going to
now.
go back to how it was.
It always has.
Yeah.
Already has. Women can't go to school or anything.
Right.
And most people today are pointing to that day that Putin said, "Oh, look, this so we can do what I want to do."
Yeah.
All ties together.
So let's wrap this up with one final question for you. Do you think that we end up in World War III here?
Unfortunately, I think we're already in it.
You think it escalates pretty bad from here, then? Do you think we see in the near future, assuming we're in World War III, assuming this is the beginning stages, and 50 years from now they'll be saying this, it started around this time. Let's say that. Do you think we'll see? And I don't even want to ask, but do you think we'll see war on our soil?
in World War III?
Wow, that's a good question. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I'm still under the thought that I'm wrong, and that things will not escalate too far until Trump gets in, and Trump will be able to de-escalate it and get an agreement. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, of course,
that we won't look back and this is World War III. I do think if we're going to have a World War III, I guess let me put it like this: if we're going to have a World War III, I think we're already in it.
Okay.
So that's what I think. I'm hoping that we could stop it.
Right.
Well, that's a good question, though. If we are in World War III,
does it make it here?
Yeah. I definitely believe this. I believe it will, because I believe there's a bunch of people from those countries that want us dead already on our soil now because of our southern border.
Yeah.
I think there's enough cells here now that the fight's going to happen here without somebody invading. Well, we've already been invaded.
They're already invaded, yeah.
But I'm glad that we haven't lost our Second Amendment rights too much, to the point that if they do start it, there's enough good old boys that are going to step up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been seeing what's going on in Tennessee and North Carolina after hurricane up. There's a lot of gangs, Venezuelan gangs, and I forget the other country gangs that are starting to take stuff over. I've read somewhere every major metropolitan area in Tennessee, and then Charlotte, Raleigh, Asheville, and Wilmington have got this stuff starting, just like they did in Colorado.
Jeez, what a mess!
And that's not even counting this. I would think this is kind of cartel type stuff,
right?
But that doesn't count the Middle Eastern ones that have come in.
Right. Yeah. This is just drugs and violence.
To answer your question in a very cold-hearted way, yeah, I think this one will be on our soil. If we can defeat what's in our country, then maybe we won't see an invasion. That would be the worst thing. But I also don't see Russia. I don't see Russia invading us. China, I guess I could.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you know what Einstein said?
What's that?
World War IV would be fought with sticks and stones.
Yeah.
He foresaw the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
Which is almost inevitable. It's scary. It's scary to think about because it's so real. But I feel like here in America we have it so good that we forget how real that could be.
This is exactly
People
what
don't
I think
about it.
They don't think about it at all.
It's not a big deal until it is.
Yeah.
Until you walk outside and you see this cloud and all of a sudden you're just wiped out. You don't think it'll happen.
And I think we're so naive to think that the world thinks like we do.
Right.
All this stuff that we literally right now we're fighting about a transgender person using a bathroom on Capitol Hill instead of about the weapons that are being fired back and forth at each other in Ukraine.
And these other countries know that's where we're at as a country, and they're like, these people are so weak now.
They see all our news stations.
As soon as they find a loophole in our defense mechanisms, it's over. That's it. And so that's why we have to keep the military going now so strong with, and keep spending the budget, because we've done this to ourselves.
The cyber attacks alone could cripple us.
Yeah. Look what they did when they shut down our pipeline.
Yeah.
They hacked it. We had to pay them, and we still don't know who hacked it, except it was probably Russian
affiliated.
And if they can do that, that was probably a test run. That was nothing. They were like, we'll make a few billion off of them real quick and open their pipeline back. We'll just hack it again later and shut it down when we need to, and then they can't do anything.
But this mentality, this pacifism that I talked about between World War I and World War II is here.
Yeah.
It's literally here in a lot of our people, even on both sides of the aisle.
You're right.
We'll just pacify them and we'll be okay. If we're not a strong country, we can't pacify them.
Right.
If we don't show strength, we're going to fall. So I'm with you. But I'll tell you the secret, how I sleep at night.
I already know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
What am I going to say?
I'm assuming you're going to say God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go back in our podcast. We have two faith.
If your faith's strong enough, I guess there's nothing really to worry about.
I wouldn't say my faith is strong. My belief in God is strong. My faith is probably needs a lot of work as far as my walking in faith.
Yeah.
But I also know that God's in control, and no matter what we do, His plan is going to be carried out. And I always look at history as two words: His story.
Yeah.
And this we'll get into our next. If people still want another faith edition, we'll do it in our next edition.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things in our North American church that we need to realize that this is all about God's plan long term. It's not about us.
Right.
And either we can this old Bible study called "Experiencing God," I think put it best, and that is that God is working, and we can choose to join Him in His work or not. but he's going to keep doing what he's going to do. And I think all falls into that plan
Yeah.
that we're heading towards whatever destination he wants us to get to.
Right.
And no matter what happens, he's still on the throne. He's still in control. So, yeah, that's how I sleep at night.
There we go.
So,
Well, that's a good place to wrap that one up. I mean, what else is there to say?
trust in God and
Yeah.
keep your food stash up, keep your ammo up.
Yep, and keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
There you go. Exactly. We'll see where we go.
Yeah.
I hope we don't head what we just talked about, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's our thoughts
To
on
be
it.
determined.
All right.
Yep. All right, guys.
Mortgage payment, insurance payments, credit card payments, they can be very overwhelming. Are you ready to take the time to get things under control? Then reach out to me at Clark Financial Coaching to see if we can get you started with a budget and then a vision for the future. Write me at coachwestc@gmail.com. That's coachwestc@gmail.com.
You're listening to the Dollars and Cents Radio Show with Jonathan Edmond, the conspiracy theorist, and Wes, the economist. Don't forget to send us your emails at dollarscentsgs@gmail.com, and please follow us on Instagram and X at dollarscentsgs, on Facebook at Dollars and Cents, and please listen to us on the podcast format on Spotify and Apple at Dollars and Cents Radio Show. Are you looking to buy a property in North or South Carolina and need financing? Call Motto Mortgage Coastal Pros today. They specialize in investment properties as well as condotels, DSCR loans, single family, and condo loans. If you're looking for competitive rates and you want to shop around and find the best rate for this market, give us a call today, 843-957-3872, 843-957-3872.
Want to know more about economics? Then look for my podcast, Econ Sense, in Apple and Spotify, or reach out to me at west.the.economist@gmail.com. It's west.the.economist@gmail.com.